Good afternoon. This afternoon, we're going to have scheduled testimony from the 1st Judicial District and the Philadelphia Sheriff's Office. Mr. Stefan, will you please call the next panel to testify?
The next panel is Judge Nina Wright Padilla, President Judge, Court of Common Pleas and Chair, Administrative Governing Board. And then we'll also have from the Sheriff's Office, Rochelle Bilal, Sheriff for the City and County of Philadelphia.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Okay, and whoever wants to go first. You can please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Yes, I am Nina Wright Padilla, President Judge, Philadelphia Court of Common Pleas. I'm very, very happy to be here. With me, I have Richard McSorley. He's our court administrator. And I can't speak for the sheriff. I think it's proper for her to speak for herself.
Right, she'll go as soon as you're finished with your testimony.
I'm sorry.
That's okay, it's all right.
Okay. Good afternoon, members of City Council. I am Judge Nina Wright Padilla, President Judge, Philadelphia Court of Common Pleas, and Chair of the Administrative Governing Board. I am pleased to provide testimony on the 1st Judicial District's fiscal year 2027 operating budget. 1st Judicial District is essential to the daily functioning of Philadelphia, handling hundreds of thousands of cases each year while ensuring fair, timely, and efficient justice across all divisions of the court. We drive outcomes in public safety, community stability, and case resolution through strengthened courtroom safety and coordinated programs such as Accelerated Misdemeanor Program and the Neighborhood Wellness Court, addressing complex challenges, including behavioral health and the opioid crises. This progress depends on a strong workforce. During the recent union negotiations, we sat side by side with the City of Philadelphia and members of the Mayor's Office to bring those contacts close together and the contracts close, I am certain that the city would say that the FJD legal team, led by Eric Assini, raise your hand, Eric, thank you, was instrumental in bringing those negotiations to a successful conclusion. At that time, we had expected that the same consideration for the salary increases would go forward for our non-represented staff. We have over 800 non-represented employees in critical roles. We are here today to simply ask that the same salary increase be granted to those employees as well. Therefore, to maintain operations and remain competitive, we are requesting a 3% salary adjustment for those employees, which is the same as the union increase, and the continuation of the 5th salary step for eligible staff. This step was also something that was negotiated with the unions. This is not about expansion, it is about sustaining performance, preventing wage compression, and retaining the talent needed to keep our courts running effectively. With continued partnership and support from the city, the 1st Judicial District will remain a stable, high-performing court, advancing safety, fairness, and opportunity for all Philadelphians. We have provided written testimony, and we are available for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We're going to hold questions until after we hear from the sheriff. Madam Sheriff, please state your name and proceed.
Good afternoon. I'm Rochelle Bilal, Sheriff for the City and County of Philadelphia. First of all, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And I don't see Council President, so I'll say Councilwoman Cindy Bass.
Yes.
It is both an honor and a privilege to appear before you today. I am Rochelle Bilal, Sheriff for the City and County of Philadelphia. Joining me today, Jamerson Rogers, Chief of Staff, Patrick Lee, Chief Financial Officer, and they can raise their hands as I'm saying it so you'll know who they are. Deputy CFO and Project Manager, William Brownlee. Craig Martin, Senior Chief Budget Officer. Chief Deputy of Court Operations, Sean Thornton. Inspector William Hines, Family Court and Transportation. Inspector Sean Marshall, he's not here, he had a death in his family, but he would have. Internal Affairs and Training. Chief Inspector David Fallon, Civil Enforcement. Inspector Joshua Perez, City Hall and Widener Building. Chief Inspector Nicole Nobles of Specialized Units, Warrants, Bike Unit, K-9, Domestic Violence Task Force Unit. And IT Director Eric Chambers. Inspector Moore, who is also part of our warrant unit. And here we have today is Badia Beasley, Mark Wilson from our real estate division. Thank y'all all for being here today. We do appreciate you standing. Here are our plans for fiscal 2027. As we move into fiscal year 2027, the Sheriff's Office remains aligned with the city's blueprint of Safer Philadelphia, with a continuous guide of our operational priorities. Our core mission remains the execution of all orders from the First Judicial, while also expanding our efforts to return excess proceeds from sheriff sales to residents, helping to restore financial stability and promote pathways to ownership. We will continue to support the vision of safer, cleaner, and greener Philadelphia. Our civil enforcement and warrant unit remains critical to this effort, working in close partnership with the District Attorney's Office and the Philadelphia Police Department to apprehend fugitives and ensure compliance with the court orders. Our fiscal 2027 budget request of $19,268,000 for several years, this office has operated under constrained funding levels, resulting in ongoing staffing challenges and impacts to service delivery. As we enter this budget cycle, we respectfully urge City Council to remain grounded in the first principle of the vision of safer. Achieving that goal requires not only alignment in priorities, but also the necessary partnerships and financial investment. We look forward to working collaboratively with City Council to ensure this office is adequately resourced and strengthened. Operations, support of our personnel, and continued delivery of essential public safety services to residents of Philadelphia. Court security and staffing needs, personnel overtime impact. Despite operating with staffing shortages, our deputies continue to provide consistent and professional security across all court facilities. However, this level of service comes at a cost. Current staffing levels have resulted in significant reliance on overtime, contributing to increased fatigue, higher sick leave usage, and long-term strain on our workforce. While our personnel continue to perform in high level, this model cannot be sustained. For fiscal 27, we are prioritizing increased hiring of deputy sheriffs and professional staff, reduction in overtime dependency, workforce stabilization, and wellness. Strategic investment in personnel will allow us to reduce overtime expenditures over time, improve employee retention, and maintain the high level of security required within our court system. We've done election security. The Sheriff's Office played a crucial role in supporting election security efforts in 2024 and 2025 by supplementing law enforcement presence citywide. As we prepare for future election cycles, we anticipate continued demand for these services and will plan accordingly to ensure safe, secure, and orderly elections for Philadelphia residents. Interagency support and operational flexibility. In addition to our core responsibility, the Philadelphia Sheriff's Office can consistently support partner agencies across the city and Commonwealth when called upon. We work closely with the Pennsylvania Office of Attorney General, the Office of Emergency Management, and the Philadelphia Police Department, among others, to provide critical resources and personnel during protests, large-scale events, and other high-profile operations. On a near-daily basis, we are called upon. Our office assists with the deployment of transportation assets, including buses, to support coordinated public safety efforts, even when these requests require significant logistical coordination. While continuing to meet our primary obligation to the courts, this level of interagency support reflects our ability to operate flexibly and efficiently, consistently doing more with limited resources in the service of the city of Philadelphia. Let me say this, to be clear. There are a lot of things that we are a part of, but yet we are not mentioned in the press conference. Competitive salaries, retention, and personnel funding. A significant challenge we face as we enter 2027, fiscal 2027, is compensation. Deputy sheriff's salary in Philadelphia remain non-competitive compared to others in surrounding counties in Pennsylvania. This disparity continues to impact both recruitment and retention, particularly as other jurisdictions offer higher starting salaries and more accessible training pathways. Addressing salaries competitiveness will be essential to maintaining a qualified and stable workforce. One of the most significant structural challenges we face in current requirement for recruits to attend Pennsylvania Sheriff's Academy Upstate College. 19-week residential program creates barriers to entry, particularly for candidates with families or local obligations, and contributes to delays on onboarding new deputies. Fiscal 27 and beyond, we propose exploring a local sheriff academy here in Philadelphia. A local academy will shorten onboarding timelines, improve accessibility for diverse candidates, enable rolling hiring cycles rather than limited annual classes, strengthen regional collaboration. We have already received written support from the sheriffs of Bucks, Delaware, Montgomery, and Chester counties who have expressed interest in sending recruits to Philadelphia based on that academy, regional academy here. Technology investments. Strategic investments in technology remains a priority in 2027. Our partnership with Tyler Tech Technologies will improve financial transparency, accountability by enhancing our ability to track receipts, void transactions, and disbursements in real time. Additionally, the implementation of LiveScan Plus system will provide deputies with mobile biometric identification capabilities, allowing for real-time fingerprinting and warrant verifications in the field. This advancement will significantly improve operational efficiency and public safety outcomes. Community engagement and specialized units. In 2027, we plan to expand our bike and K-9 units, increasing visibility, law enforcement presence in and around court facilities and key areas such as City Hall. We also remain committed to community-based initiatives in 2025 The Sheriff's Office hosted free healthcare pop-up clinics and provided critical service to underserved communities, and an effort we plan to continue and expand. Additionally, Philadelphia Sheriff's Office is proud to be the first law enforcement agency in Pennsylvania to achieve certification in autism awareness. This training ensures that both sworn and professional staff are better equipped to serve individuals with autism and their families with care and understanding. Closing remarks here. With your continued support, we are confident we can meet the demands of fiscal 2027 and beyond. We remain committed to working in partnership with the City Council and all stakeholders to strengthen public safety, improve operational efficiency, and serve the residents of Philadelphia with professionalism and integrity. Before closing, I would like to take a note, the importance of ensuring that the Sheriff's Office budget is fully reviewed and properly considered as part of fiscal 27 process. Doing so will allow us to effectively plan, allocate resources, and continue delivering the critical services that the courts and the public rely upon. Lastly, on behalf of my entire team, thank you for your continued partnerships and support in our shared mission to keep Philadelphia safe, secure, and thriving. Thank you for your time and consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you for your testimony, and I want to thank you for you and your department and the 1st Judicial District for all of your hard work. And one of your statements earlier was that the city of Philadelphia works because you all work. And so I don't want it to be in any way diminish the amount of work that you all do, the high level of responsibility that you have, and the, just overall the way you conduct yourselves and conduct your departments that doesn't always get properly recognized. There's a lot of criticism. I think that there's particularly a lot of criticism around African American women in leadership. So I just really want to say thank you for all of the work that you do, really, to all of your departments and staff. So thank you for your work. I just had one quick question before I turn it over to my colleagues, and that is around sheriff sales. Can you talk a little bit about sheriff sales? Where are we in the process? What's happening? What should we be expecting?
Okay. Sheriff sales are going on. As of August of 2024, we are now back full blast of 5 sales a month. Some of the things that we're doing is we went technical. Our sheriff sales are online. More people are bidding. More people are getting excess proceeds back to them because the more people that bid, the more money they get back. Mortgage sales are up. Tax sales are up, and I think on each of your package on your desk, we give all the diagrams and all the numbers to what is going on in the sheriff's sale as real estate. Let me give you some more questions. Real estate, well, let me see. You have a specific area in the real estate because there's so many departments in the real estate division.
Well, I really wanted to, if you read some of the daily publications, you would think that, real estate, particularly in the sheriff's department, was going to hell in a handbasket. And so I really wanted to try to address some of the items that may cause doubt or concern with the general public in terms of some of the things that have been alluded to from the Sheriff's Department with, deed transfers and, returning funds, belonging to heirs and others that, through a sheriff sale process are due to have some sort of a refund. Can you talk about some of those types of things that are portrayed to be as problematic within the Sheriff's Office? I'd appreciate any clarity that you could provide.
Okay. Thank you for that question, because basically, a lot of the stuff that are being put in the papers is basically twisting the narrative. Let's start with deeds. And in your package, you have our deed pamphlet, which we give out to everybody to tell the process. A lot of the time, they're saying the deeds are so delayed and so behind. There are reasons why they are. And we put that information up on our webpage to explain that. The process of deeds process is once you do a sheriff's sale, let's say you do a sheriff's sale January of 2025. Mortgage sale, you purchase the property. Mortgage company think the sheriff's office is like the storage bin for them. They basically buy that property back, and they don't move on it or pay any of the bills to that property until they get a buyer for it. So if they bought it back in January of 2025 and they don't get a buyer for it until, let's say, September of 2025. Now it's the rush to get the deed. But the situation is this way. Until you pay all the invoices on that property that you get from the sheriff's office is when your deed process starts. It doesn't start because you bought it in January of 2025. It starts once you pay all the bills on it. And a lot of times, they don't pay all the bills on it until they get a buyer, which is sometime in September, and now your deed process starts. And now, as we go through the deed process, we conform it, it gets recorded, and then you get the deed. But if you believe them that run to the newspapers, oh, I ain't get my deed. Well, they never tell them that they didn't pay the invoice of the property. And when it comes down to tax lien sales, they never tell them that they didn't upload their tax compliance letter that they're supposed to give for the city purposes to make sure they don't owe any taxes in the city. They never tell them that. Once you give your tax compliance letter to us, then your deed process starts. Now, you can buy the property, you can settle on it, but according to the rules from the city, you have to have a tax compliance letter to say that you don't owe any taxes in the city. Now, once you give us that, now your deed process starts. See, they can put it in there, oh, I ain't got my deed because I bought it in January, but until you finish and complete the sale, your deed doesn't start. And because we dealt with a couple of people, we done did over close to 2,000 deeds in 2025. And up to about 300 and something up till this date. And these are the people that follow the rules and in compliance. All their paperwork is in, the invoices is paid, and the tax certificate for tax sales is uploaded and done. The ones that run to the paper is the same person that tried to get to the head of the line a year ago. So the ones that try to get it to a hairline keep thinking this is the old operation. It is not. You can't come to the sheriff's office and smile at somebody and get a friend and get pushed to the front of the line when everybody else is in line waiting to get their stuff processed. That doesn't operate with us anymore. We follow the law, we follow the rules, and that's how we get everything processed.
One other quick question, and I'm going to turn it over. Can you talk very briefly about, for folks who lose homes on sheriff's sale, because we know that taxes are going up, we keep doing these reassessments, residents cannot afford it. Well, now let me clarify: the city council is not increasing real estate taxes, but assessments are continuing, and values are climbing, and so as people are losing real estate, their generational wealth, because in most of our communities, real estate is the only generational wealth most of us have, are able to pass down, are able to give to our children. This is really it. And so with the loss of these properties, if you can't pay the taxes, and then your property ends up on sheriff's sale. Can you talk just a little bit about how are we avoiding or trying to help people avoid ending up in that particular type of scenario?
In every package, you have all the pamphlets that we have developed in the sheriff's office. And all of them are online on phillysheriff.com. What our civil unit does and gives out to homeowners, because my constituent services unit was mandated to develop and put in that pamphlet all the agencies that can help people save their homes, all of them. And so when our civil unit gets the court order, though they have to do their job according to the court order, they do give out postings and pamphlets on the organizations that can help you save your home. And by doing that, a lot of people have started using all of those resources and have basically been able to save their homes, because you can tell by the amount of money that's given back out of the HEART program. 8-point-something million given back to homeowners in that area. But the amount of properties going up for sale has been stayed or stopped because people are using that information to get a hold to the agencies that can help them save their homes.
Okay.
In that, you have it? So we basically, in that package, you have this in there. It basically tells you in 2024 how many properties were stayed in every councilmatic district. In 2024 and in 2025, that means the numbers have increased in 2025 on how many properties have not gone to sheriff's sale because of the information that are given at the time that we get involved, the sheriff's office get involved. And for the record, for people who think we pick and choose properties, we don't. We only operate off of court orders. When we get the court order, we have to act. But in that process, we give out information for families to be able to get the help they need in order to save their homes.
Well, listen, thank you very much for that information. I'm sure there's going to be some more questions related to sheriff sales from the members, so I want to turn it over. Real quick, I do want to say, again, a special thank you to the deputies who keep us safe here in the chamber, so thank you so much to our sheriffs, and of course, PPD, Philadelphia Police Department, for you know, our regulars here who are also, we count them as members of council as well. So first up, we have Councilmember Harity, Jones, O'Rourke, Brooks, Gauthier.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Good afternoon, everyone. How are you?
Good afternoon.
My questions are for the First Judicial. Philadelphia Family Court Help Center in federal the Philadelphia Family Court Help Centers in federal funding is set to expire after 9 years of funding. Can you speak about this program and how it will continue to serve our constituents without this funding? What gaps does this leave for families and individuals during their experience with the court system? And we know there is a renewed focus within the state court system and the First Judicial District around the intersection of mental health and behavioral health and substance abuse, as well as autism and intellectual disabilities. Can you tell me more about this work within Philadelphia and any possible partnerships between the judicial branches of government to address this major issue?
Thank you for the question, Councilperson. First, we're hoping that the federal funding will continue for family court and we'll be able to maintain all those services. We don't have a plan in place yet to fill that gap. We're hoping that gap doesn't have to be filled, but it is a question that I can take back to Administrative Judge Ochevsky, and we can probably send you back what our plan is, what our backup plans are. Bottom line is that the family court knows what its obligations are and what its services to the people that use those programs, and we're going to continue with those programs. We're just going to have to find a way to do it if the worst case scenario happens. But I can have other conversation with you offline with Judge Ochevsky and get you more information about that.
Yeah, if you could just get it to the chair and then we could,
Sure.
we could all have that information would be nice. And how about my question with what we know there's a renewed focus with the state court system. and the 1st Judicial District around the intersection of mental health, behavioral health, and substance abuse, as well as autism and intellectual disabilities. Can you tell me more about this work within Philadelphia and any possible partnerships between the judicial branches of government to address this major issue and intersection?
Absolutely. The issue of behavioral health has become finally sharply in focus for the FJD and also for the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. We've worked with DBH-IDS, we've worked with DBH. We're collaborating right now with DBH taking over the forensic unit in the Criminal Justice Stout Center. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court is working with the mayor's office and obtaining funding to continue their mental health initiative. We've had several statewide collaborations over mental health. There's now a mental health committee that the FJD works with. It's chaired, one of the chairs is our own supervising Judge Defina Nastasi. So instead of just having the mental health issue becoming a Philadelphia issue, it's finally expanded to a statewide issue. And the court is starting to address a lot of the mental health things that we see in the court. We are now have, DBH is working with us to have navigators in our pretrial program, our adult probation and parole program. We have the hub, which is over the Stout Center, which is not only just for people in the criminal justice system, but it's open for everyone. Probation is creating a resource center addressing mental health issues. So the referrals and the actual hands-on work that we're doing, it's a much bigger collaboration. As somebody who's been here for as long as I've been here for 40 years, this wasn't even talked about 10 years ago. And now we have partnerships with the state, with the DBH, with DBH-IDS, and a lot of other partners. And unfortunately, there's funding that's being made available for this too. So I think this is going to be all going. And lastly, to talk about autism, we, in our own place, in the FJD, we've created autism awareness training program. It's mandatory for all employees. We've given it to our judges. So staff is aware. First line staff, you come into the Stout Center, you come into City Hall, you're going to file. People don't realize that, there might be something different. And now our staff is being trained to recognize these kinds of issues and take the steps. And this is ongoing training that we're doing. And we've done trauma training too for all staff. So we're trying to make sure that our first line faces of the FJD are aware. And we have the autism reading room, as the President Judge just said. So a lot of collaboration, a lot of overdue collaboration.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Everybody knows I'm a grandfather to an autistic child, and hoping that he never has to experience the court system, but if he does, knowing that we're actually making progress around those issues is very personal to me.
And even that collaboration with the sheriff, as the sheriff mentioned, their autism training, our autism training. Now when somebody walks into our buildings, there's a lot more people who are aware.
Absolutely, and I'm with the sheriff when she does her program. Spent last week at the press conference with her. She does doing great work when it comes to that with her collaborations of, it's kind of funny, you don't realize it until you deal with it, about how different it is to interact, right? And how quick the interaction can change. So it's good to see that both law enforcement and the court system are partnering up to really work on these issues. So I thank you all for your service. Judge Padilla, thank you. It's an honor to see you as always. Thank you for your many years of service, President. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, council member. Chair recognizes Councilmember Jones.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to echo something the chairwoman said, that a lot of times we tend to focus on the here and now and not remember half of the good things you guys did for the city of Philadelphia. And I just want to take a moment to recognize that. I remember the worst night in my career was the night of the George Floyd uprising, and all hell broke loose. And I happened to have a scanner that night, so I'm hearing the back and forth, the calls coming back in. And I'll never forget, there was a time, and I remember talking to my colleague over there, she was out at 52nd Street, but there was a time when Center City was besieged, surrounded, And it was almost as if, at that time, the police department was gonna just concede Center City. It was that bad. And I remember the sheriff's office, without a lot of prodding, stepped up to the plate, pulled up, and I know where you were deployed, and I know what your responsibility, because I heard it. And I never forgot, that was like a scene from the movies of the cavalry trying to hold down the fort. And I appreciate it, and I want to say it publicly to you. And thank you for your service, you and your team. For the courts, yeah, she deserves it. For the courts, another rough time was during the pandemic. And we were meeting weekly, Your Honor, trying to figure out how to reduce the census population up on State Road. And back then, the courts, the DA, the defenders, weren't so huggy-friendly back then. But in spite of that, you guys stepped up to the plate using technology to have hearings to look at whether or not people could be released safely back into the community. And you weekly brought that census count down to the fact that what could have been a pandemic spread up on State Road was reduced. We had some fatalities, but not as many as we could have had if we had not worked together. I know some people claim they invented the shot for COVID, but you guys were in the trenches making it happen, keeping us safe, both the correctional officers up there and the inmates that they are sworn to protect. So thank you both for that. Now, that's the good part. Don't get to the rough and tumble. There's no rough and tumble, relax. But what I would like to ask you, and I'm so glad this year they have you two sitting, these two departments sitting together so that we don't do this. So today when I was coming into work, there was a big ruckus over at CJC. Police were called in. It was some disturbance at CJC, and even City Hall police were called. With your shortage of manpower, personnel, and your courts having to operate, how is safety, how are you working together to keep not only the staff of the courts safe, but the people that are the defendants and those accused safe as we travel through CJC? Is there a better plan this year for working together?
I would like to just comment on that. That's a very important question, and I can tell you, City Council had a hearing recently on ICE, and after the hearing, a lot of those folks that were here in the well of City Council made their way to my chambers. And we're standing outside with a huge banner, and they were saying things like, "We know you're in there. We're going to be here for a while." And so finally, I ended up calling the sheriff, Sheriff Chung, standing right there. He came to my rescue. He came right over there, right away, took care of it. I couldn't be more pleased and more proud of having the security that we have right now. I also have occasion to meander over to the Stout Center on occasion, probably maybe once or twice a week, and I trouble the sheriffs over there to find out, the deputy sheriffs, to find out what's going on, make sure everything okay. I stop in a different courtroom from time to time, and I have to commend Sheriff Bilal. There really haven't been any problems at all. The sheriffs are present, they're available, they're helping us, they're there to answer any issues that we have. Personally, I haven't noticed any problems at all with it.
I'm so very glad to hear that. Without that kind of security in the courtrooms, witnesses don't want to testify.
That's right.
People, so there is no justice without courtroom safety. And I'm glad you banned these glasses over there, because it's intimidating, to say the least, when people can record you in the court who's testifying and putting it out on the web. So we have to lock down, no pun intended, on the security of CJC in order for there to be confidence that people are safe and have justice. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember. And I just, along your line of questioning, it's my understanding that the building was built knowing that we needed sort of like more space, more elevators, more ways to enter and exit, and that to save a couple of dollars, we built it wrong. Well, not we, because I wasn't here then, but it was built wrong.
So unfortunately, Madam Chair, me and Wilson Good Sr. were here, and my name is on the Justice Center, and I remember the change order that you were supposed to have another bank of elevators, thus, so that the overcrowd, in order to save money because of cost, you are right, Madam Chair, they cut down a bank of elevators.
And it's been a huge issue ever since.
Correct.
So sometimes you got to spend the money, do it right the first time. Chair recognizes Councilmember O'Rourke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon to all, President Judge Padilla and Mr. McSorley, as well as the Sheriff of the county and the city of Philadelphia, Ms. Rochelle Bilal. I appreciate y'all for your leadership and your service to our city. To you, Rochelle Bilal, Sheriff of the town, I find some of your employees to be some of the best and brightest that there are. Grateful to have in the chamber with us today, both Pastor Darrell Roberts, who I find to be a great champion, as well as the Reverend William Brownlee, who is a good brother, and we go way, way back. And so grateful to have him here, and thank you for hiring them both. Let me jump into my questions. I want to, as I said, thank you for your service to the city, but also thank you for your office's role in carrying out what is probably one of the more difficult mechanisms of our housing system, and difficult parts of the housing system. As you may have heard, this past week, this body passed the Safe Healthy Homes Act, which is centered on ensuring that all renters in Philadelphia have access to safe, healthy, and stable housing. Throughout the course of this, what turned out to be more than a year-long process, there were ongoing questions raised about eviction timelines, particularly around lockouts. And I want to acknowledge that the long lockout times were actually explicitly raised in the run-up to the de facto abolition of the landlord-tenant office prior to, which existed and was valued, I think, by landlords for effectively addressing system backlog with speed and with efficiency and limiting financial strain on small landlords by doing so, because it was a quick effort. Now, the problem was that folks were getting shot in the process, and because it's privatized, it existed outside the purview of this body. That, to me, and I think to others, is an unacceptable way to operate. So that needed to go. That said, with the evictions being handled by the sheriff, it still does place control of the process into council's power, but we do have a responsibility to understand how it's functioning, and and many landlords, we found out through the course of this, have a vested interest in that it functions better, especially given the serious impact these actions have on tenants and families. So I want to ask a few questions to better understand both the timeline and the safeguards in place related to the eviction process of the lockout time. Once the sheriff's office, somebody's coming up. Go ahead. Great. Yeah, once the sheriff's office receives a court order for a lockout, what is the typical timeline before that lockout is executed? And I'll tag another one in there for expedience. And then what operational or capacity challenges affect how quickly or slowly those lockouts are carried out? We'll start there.
Good question. First, let me just give you our timeline as we got this. Once the landlord-tenant officers was no longer in play, the sheriff's office got it. Normally, we would do about 400 evictions a year. Last year, we did 18,000. So if you're saying the manpower is low, and we have to figure out how to do those evictions safely, So we're basically building up to that, and the person that is working with a lot of the landlords to make sure that certain things go smoothly is my Chief Inspector Fallon, Chief Inspector Fallon, who is in charge of the civil unit, and I'm gonna let him give you that timeline.
Okay.
Come on, Ms. Fallon.
Good afternoon, Chief Inspector Fallon.
You can get closer.
Good afternoon, Chief Inspector Fallon, Sheriff's Office, Civil Enforcement. When the landlord-tenant office first shut down in 2024, we were able to adjust staff and move some things around to schedule roughly 70 to 80 evictions per week, which what I found after we got a full year of data of collecting writs and taking in cases was that was about half the amount that we needed to be scheduling. So for several months, we were upside down. Right now, we're probably about to turn a corner because we've doubled our staff we started with 8, now we have 16 detectives on the street. A case I just looked at today, we got the second part of the case about 4 weeks ago. So it depends on what part of the city you're in, how quickly the eviction is going to come. But right now, on average, it's like 4 to 6 weeks. We are training, and soon we'll have more staff deployed into those busier parts of the city, which I'm finding is West and Southwest Philadelphia. As soon as we get those people out, you're going to probably start hearing a lot less about the landlords. But one thing we said we weren't going to do was just do them haphazardly. So the difference is we do them with partners. We do them in pairs. They were doing them solo. So we had to, you may have heard they only had 6 or 7 people doing them, but they were doing them rushed and, from what we're hearing, dangerously.
For sure.
So now that we've doubled our staff, we are on top. We're right side up now. We're scheduling more than we're bringing in.
Okay.
But now we just have to work to reduce what's behind.
But it does, I'm sorry,
We're working for both sides.
sounds like a winner.
Yeah.
It does sound like you're saying that you're at a turning point now. You are staffing up.
We are.
There are things in play, and so we've already seen a bit of an increase in the amount of lockouts you've been able to effectively do, but you expect there to be even more of an increase in the coming days, weeks, months as you're staffing up. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Okay. And I want to clarify, too, the sheriff said 18,000. Did you mean 18,000 or 1,800? Just want to clarify for the record.
18,000.
So we went from 400 a year to 18,000, 2,000 less than 20,000 in the course of a year. Okay, that is a major notion. Again, I want to also say that I recognize the efficiency that the landlord-tenant office in its existence provided to those who were concerned with quick lockout times. But you can't kill folk in the process or shoot folk in the head, and so I think we did the right thing. I'm grateful to your leadership and Member Brooks as well to address that. But we have got to figure out how to get this that number down or get y'all to a place where you can actually handle that. Let me continue on with my questions. Given that, how does your office approach balancing efficiency, and I'm sure this is difficult, with ensuring that tenants have adequate notice and time to prepare in the process of these? How are you doing that?
So if we just speak with the landlord-tenant eviction, it's a 2-writ process, and they're given a 10-day notice to vacate. It gives them a date and time that they have to leave. So that's served or posted to the property if they don't answer the door. And we provide all contact information for the assigned detectives in that area. So if anyone in that property has any questions, they can call them or call the office, and we'll direct them where they need to be. And then when eviction day comes, when the landlord or the attorney or the plaintiff files what's called their alias writ, that's when we schedule the physical lockout. They're given notice. We try to do that about a week in advance of the actual eviction date. So we give plenty of notice and information and resources to try and assist them.
On the question on information and resources, what protocols are in place to connect tenants to resources like legal assistance, like emergency housing, if that's necessary, social services, at or before that point of lockout?
That's the pamphlets that we put together from my constituent
These here?
services. You have them all.
Perfect.
We've developed all type of pamphlets to give to everybody around this city in reference to what the sheriff gets involved in.
Got you. Will these be, as the new legislation is coming through, you'll update these with new information that's necessary?
And if we find another resources, local, state, or federal, we will add to that pamphlet, yes.
Wonderful. Are there any policy, staffing, or funding needs that would allow your office to better support a process that is fair, that is transparent, that minimizes harm to vulnerable residents? And I ask these questions because, like I said, in the process of trying to secure the tenant protections and strengthening what was already on the books, I spoke to a whole lot of landlords, and many of them had the same refrain around, we probably wouldn't have as many issues with what you're trying to accomplish if we trusted that when we were on good ground to evict someone who is a problem tenant, it didn't take 6 months to a year to do so. That was probably the top concern or apprehension that folks had when we actually got into the nitty-gritty of my bills was lockout time. So that's the reason why I'm asking this, to make sure that we create a situation where folks are able to be evicted that needed to go, but also that we're able to deal with them in a compassionate manner that provides people, connects them to resources, things that they need to be able to live better going forward. Anything that we can do, policy, funding-wise, staffing-wise, to help you do this better?
We need staffing, we need funding. When we said we're asking for $19 million over a 5-year period, that's for staffing, that's for equipment, that's for promotion, because people that do the lockouts are detectives. They're all sworn personnel. Civilians cannot do that. And this is the reason why. We did an analyzation of how many deputies is needed in order to be fully covered. The courts, the special units, everywhere. And we did that. It's about 630 at the lowest minimum. Right now we are 391. And because of the court order that we got, are mandated to staff and get people in there, is we went all out of the box, advertising on all kinds of TVs to get people to notice that this is an available position for people to come work with the sheriff's office so that we can get those staffing numbers. The problem was this, is they never did it in the past. They never fully funded the sheriff's office. And you can look in all their budgets. They never planned for nutrition. They never planned for those that were retiring. They never planned for those that were going to move on to other departments or other law enforcement agencies. They never did that. And so we are low because of what the past brings. But we done moved past that. We now have to focus on staffing the sheriff's office so that it can be staffed properly, and all what the court needs us to do, that we can do that, and all that the city that we can do. We do more. People think we just in the sheriff's office, we just in the courts. The city calls on us a lot. OEM calls on us a lot. And in my opening statement, that we have to really do some logistical planning in order to help the city with all of their asking for. Just to give you a few months, November 24, September 25, May of 25, 480 hours, 330 hours, 543 hours, 1,353 for 2025 is the hours of overtime that we're putting out because they're calling on our buses, our K-9, our vans to support the OEM and all the major events there. That's coming out of our budget. That's not coming out of Philly PD budget. That's not coming out of OEM budget. That's coming out of the sheriff budget. So we're doing a roundup of things. And whatever the city needs us to do, we will do the best that we can to make sure it happens.
I heard the bell, so if there's another round, I'll come back for my Judicial District questions on that one. But again, whatever we can do to get you in a situation where you're able to effectively meet the demand around evictions, and we're able to do that in a way that's much better than the landlord-tenant office, which we already are doing, and I want to thank you for that. But to increase your capacity, I think is well worth the effort, and I think there will be a whole lot of landlords across the city of Philadelphia who would also thank us if we did that as well. Anyways, thank you so much for the time, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilmember Brooks.
Thank you. So my questions are for both the 1st Judicial District and the Sheriff's Department in reference to the ICE legislation.
It's a series of questions, so if you guys can just take it down and just answer them accordingly. So for years, we have seen consistent and disturbing trends of civil immigration arrests of Philadelphians as they exit the Juanita Kidd Stout Center for Criminal Justice. ICE agents have utilized our local courthouse as ambush site, detaining community members as they exit, despite many still being in the midst of their criminal proceedings or having accepted other sentencing within the criminal justice system. Local ICE agents have been documented waiting in the lobby of CJC and visiting upper courthouse floors without documentation of valid judicial warrants, often executing arrests the moment a community member steps out into public hallways or sidewalks. In Chicago, the top Cook County judge banned ICE from arresting any party, witness, or potential witness while going to court proceedings, including arrests that might be made inside courthouses, but also parking lots, entryways, and surrounding sidewalks. And Oregon bans the arrest of people at courthouses or on their way to or from there unless ICE carries a warrant signed by a judge. I know that the First Judicial District and the Sheriff's Office are not supportive of ICE's policies and action, but at least it seems that each party says that it is the responsibility of the other to enact the policies like Chicago has done. So I would like to take the opportunity to ask you both questions while you're both here. So my first question is, like Chicago's top county judge did, will you prohibit the civil arrest of any party, witness, or potential witness while going to court proceedings, including arrests inside courthouses and in parking lots, surrounding sideways, or entryways? My second question is, will you require all federal agents and law enforcement to wear visible identification and no masks in the courthouse? The third question is, will you expand virtual or excused appearances across all courts until a comprehensive policy protecting immigrant community members is finalized? And lastly, would you put in place a clear policy prohibiting personnel from expending resources or time existing ICE in civil immigration enforcement in or near the CJC?
I can answer my way, but I would also like Mr. McSorley to answer his way, and of course the sheriff. So in terms of prohibiting access to ICE, ICE is a federal agency, and we just don't have the jurisdiction to prohibit them. It's my understanding that the ICE agents sort of post up all around the CJC, the Masonic Temple, across where the Marriott is, down the street, and they follow people. That's my understanding. There's really not a way that the court can enforce any type of order about ICE arresting people. Let me just say this. You said it at the beginning of your statement that you know I think you said something about how the FJD may have a feeling about it personally. So the court is independent. We have to be fair, unbiased, and we have to just rule on the matters before it. I cannot, as a judge, as president judge, none of the judges in the FJD can go on the No Kings protest. It's not proper. We can't state how discussing the policy is, because that would not be proper. So we can't do anything like that. We can't say those kind of things. But in terms of masks, the same thing. And the masks in general are federal policy, so we don't have any statement about that. The virtual court hearings would be, I actually thought about that when I saw your hearings. I don't see how that could be implemented either, because the criminal proceedings, for example, if those are virtual, can you imagine the level of witness intimidation that could go on, we wouldn't even know who was present in the room at a virtual proceeding. The witness intimidation factor is off the chart in any event, very often in criminal proceedings. So it would be unmanageable if proceeding were virtual. For a child custody or dependency case, or a juvenile delinquency case, it would be impossible really to have a virtual proceeding for that also. And in terms of a policy that inhibits personnel from assisting. So the court doesn't really have those kind of policies because of the same reason I said at the outset. We're not allowed to have an opinion about things. We just resolve or dispose of the matters before the court, fair, impartial, unbiased. That's what the court is. We're not an activist sort of arm of the government. So there are three branches of government: executive, legislative, and judiciary. The judiciary can't have those kind of opinions. But I would like Mr. McSorley to comment, because he's got a lot of experience and he probably would say it better than I will.
I don't think so, Judge. Hi, Rich McSorley again. To echo what the judge said, just the president judge basically said everything that I would say. Just to be more specific, I know about the Chicago ruling. I know that's on appeal right now. I don't know what the Chicago layout is of their courthouse, so they might have their parking garage below them and maybe they can control that jurisdiction. But unfortunately for the Stout Center, for instance, we have the Masonic Temple on one side, Chili's on the other, and the Notary Hotel across. We don't have, as the judge mentioned, we don't have the jurisdiction to issue an order that would encompass those areas. So what we have done is we've worked with the sheriff very closely, and the sheriff does have a written policy about ICE and what the agents can do. To my knowledge, there's not been one arrest inside the Stout Center or any courthouse. There has been arrests, as we've said, outside, and the sheriff maintains that security inside of our building. Again, we have the issues that this is a public courthouse. If we can't tell somebody what they can and cannot wear in the building, and many of the ICE agents that come in, they're not in there to effectuate an arrest, so they don't identify themselves. They don't have to go up to the sheriff and say, I'm an ICE agent, I'm here with a warrant. They're just in the building. What their intentions are, what their real business is, I'm not sure, but they can move freely without the building, and there's nothing we can do to restrict that, except to work with the sheriff. When we do know that an ICE agent has an arrest warrant, if they do identify themselves, there are protocols in place that were put in place by the sheriff's department. If a court officer knows that there's an ICE agent in the courtroom, they notify the sheriff, they notify the district attorney immediately. That is brought to the attention of the judge. If there's any hint of anything that's going to happen in that courtroom in the hallway, the court tries to handle it. But for the most part, and I've seen a lot of the video, and I've been in the Stout Center for many years, we don't know anything until the person has left the building and they walk outside. So we can't regulate what our people are wearing. As the judge said, the video hearings, we've had communication with the ICE advocates. It is something that I know that they would like, but unfortunately, in criminal cases, constitutionally, we just can't do it. Not to mention, as the judge said, the witness intimidation. Also, we have local rules of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court that we're not allowed to conduct hearings via technology. So our hands are tied in that area. And for personnel, just to emphasize, our personnel are trained. They know what to do when any law enforcement agency comes into any courtroom and identifies themselves if they're going to make some sort of arrest or they want to present themselves. Our personnel are told that they're not supposed to contact or have communication with any other law enforcement agency without a supervisor's permission. So we don't have court people calling outside law enforcement agencies unless they have a reason to do so. And if they do have a reason to do so, they're supposed to be have a supervisor's permission. So, and this is not just ICE, this is every law enforcement entity. The Philadelphia Police Department can't come into the courthouse and make an arrest in our courtrooms. They can't make an arrest in our hallway. They have to identify themselves to the sheriff, and then the sheriff takes it from there. And then if the person's gonna be turned over, that's between law enforcement. But just to end on what the judge said, we've had many discussions with the Administrative Governing Board. What can we do? Where's the line drawn for the court system? And as much as we might want to issue an order or put something out there that within so many feet of the courthouse we're going to and from, it just isn't enforceable. It's just not within our power. It would undermine our authority because we're issuing an order that would not be able to be followed. And it becomes a political statement, basically. And I understand we just had a lot of communication with a lot of advocates, immigration advocates, about 12 or 13 letters, and we answered each and every one of them. We will keep that communication open, but we are doing what we can do. And I guess I'll turn it to the sheriff for her comments.
Thank you for that question. We've already stated this numerous times, and we also put our policy up on our thing. I know the main issue is around the courts. I think we met with a group of ICE, No Philly ICE, and they wanted us to mandate parking lots. We can't mandate private parking lots. That's not in our purview. We can't mandate them station up at the Marriott. That's not in our purview either. What we do inside the courthouse and what we have been doing, ICE agents do not come in the courthouse with masks. They have to identify themselves. Matter of fact, they have to have 2 IDs. They have to have their ID and their badge. They can't come in our courthouse with just one. They just can't. And they have been, up until we started dealing with the mess that we see today, there was cooperation. They had to get a warrant, a judicial warrant, to come and get anybody or to say they want to arrest anybody. And then they would not be able to arrest them inside of there. If the person was in custody, we would take them down, send them back to where they were in custody, and they would go there to get them. There was one incident, and they keep playing this over and over, that a person walked outside of the courthouse and saw the ICE agents and ran back in, and they ran behind them. That was the only incident. The other one was not dealing with the sheriff's office at all, and I think the police commissioner addressed that, but the people keep saying the same thing over and over. Whatever we get, the sidewalk is the public sidewalk. We do not man the public sidewalk at all. That's like we're patrolling the streets. And as people put it out there, we don't patrol the streets. But we do in some instances when you see our bike unit is around the courthouses and is basically escorting people from the courthouse to their vehicles to make sure they're safe. But we don't patrol the streets, and there's a public sidewalk. So when they came to us, they wanted us to keep them out of parking lots, and we don't man parking lots. We don't man the Marriott parking lot. We don't man the Marriott cover over there. We don't man none of that. But what we do inside is they are very cooperative when they come to us. They don't wear the mask, and if they want to see somebody inside or have anything to do with them, they have to have a judicial warrant, and we notify the judge. And now all of that takes place under us.
Thank you so much. Thank you both, all three of you guys, for making sure that's on the record so our advocates could have this information. You know, I do appreciate the work I've done directly with the Sheriff's Department to get us to this point. And it was just important that we get these things on the record as part of the conversation, as these conversations continue to move and grow. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page. And in the event that the outcomes in Chicago are any different, after the appeal, would you be willing to engage in a deeper conversation about what exactly the courts are able to do here in Philadelphia?
Council Lady, Councilwoman Brooks, can we make that the last and then you come back on the
That's
second?
my only question.
Okay, on the second round.
I don't have any other questions. That's it
Okay,
for me.
so can we answer that? And
Yes, absolutely. We're always going to have the conversation. We're always open to the conversation.
thank you so much. Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilmember Gauthier, Lozada, and then Young.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Sheriff Bilal and President Judge Wright Padilla, and to all of you. Thank you so much for your work, and thanks for testifying today. My question is for FJD, but I wanted to pause a little bit and just touch on the line of questioning from my colleague, Minority Whip Nicholas O'Rourke. I am very alarmed to hear you say that we're doing 18,000 evictions or lockouts a year. If I want to follow up to maybe dig into those numbers some, but if that is the case, then that is a red alarm emergency. And although I support what my colleague said, that we have to give the sheriff's office the support to do these lockouts slash evictions efficiently and safely, while we are considering that, we also have to do the work to get that number down. As far as I can recall, we were doing 20,000 evictions prior to the pandemic, and at that rate, we were the fourth highest evicting city in the entire country. And everyone should be clear that when we're talking about folks being evicted, we're talking about Black and brown single moms with children, we're talking about elderly people, we're talking about disabled people. Those are the folks who are most often experiencing this. I think my colleague has a point of information.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Lozada for a point of information.
Point of information. Is it 18,000 evictions or 18,000 ejectments? And are they the same? Because, again, I'm alarmed, but I want to
Maybe another point of information coming from Rue.
Because she knows the difference.
Okay,
Eviction filings or
And then the
actual
ejections.
ejectments? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Go ahead.
Good afternoon. Sean Thornton, Chief Deputy of Court Operations, but I also worked in the eviction unit. It's actually 18,000 evictions scheduled. Let's be clear on that. But what actually happens, and I know to your point, you was concerned with that number, but what actually happens is evictions get scheduled, and at some point during that process, things get worked out between the occupant or the tenant and the landlord, and that number reduces. So it's actually 5,500 who we actually are evicting, but it's actually scheduled 18,000. So there's some enforcement, but that number is reduced, so you know that part.
Well, that's a lot different. 5,500 is a lot different than 18,000.
Yes, it's scheduled. Those risks come through the office, so yes.
So don't forget that that's a process. Yes. The evictions are scheduled, they're posted, there's notification that this is about to happen, and then some deals are made between the landlord and the problem came in with the landlord-tenant officers is that once the tenant made an agreement with the landlord, and if they miss one, instead of notifying them that they're being evicted, they just rolled up on them. And then that's where the problem came in at. Yeah. So it's 5,000. But it's 18,000 that we have to start.
So Chair recognizes Councilmember Landau for a point of information, but I just really quickly, I wanted to say that even though it's, they're scheduled, that to me is still, saying something is happening when we went from this low number that was still being scheduled to now 18,000 being scheduled. Even if the actual number of evictions drops back down, it's still saying that
18,000 being in schedule, meaning our manpower is out there posting and scheduling and posting and notifying people that there's an eviction happening.
Right.
So we're still out there doing the work.
Yes, so thank you. Councilmember Landau.
I'm sorry, I just want to clear this up because I think it's really important for the public right now, just in case. My understanding and belief at the highest level, the municipal court handled 24,000 eviction cases filed a year. That's when Mayor Kenny started his eviction diversion task force, of which I was a part of this. That's when the council got involved in the whole process. So even if it's 18,000 cases filed, your own press release you put out in December of 2025 said that you've now increased capacity to go from 25 cases scheduling for eviction duties to 144 a week in your press release. That my understanding is it's maybe 100 or so a week, which would make it at best 7,000 a year, but I think it's something, when we're talking about lockouts that are scheduled.
When we talked about 18,000, that's the 18,000 filed that we have to begin to post. Then when
they're
you're
in
talking
municipal
about
court.
injection,
They're filed in municipal court.
right,
They go through a whole court process. And if they have to go through an eviction, then it comes to you.
right.
But most cases settle in municipal court. Almost all of them do.
I don't know about that. Fallon?
I'm sorry, I just want to clear this
Yeah,
up
I
for
know
the
you want to
public,
get it
'cause I don't
cleared
want
up.
us to go.
This is Chief Inspector Fallon over
Excellent.
I'll try
over
to
the
clear
civil unit.
I'll try and clear it up the best I can. Chief Inspector David Fallon again, Civil Enforcement. So these are both the common pleas writs and the municipal court writs. So ejectments, evictions, it's the same for us. It ends with someone being removed from a property. The 18,000 number comes from services to that property, giving them notification. That's the first writ we talked about. That's the final notice. The amount of writs that were actually filed with our office in 2025 was, it looks like it's about 17,000, 18,000. There's a lot of services. 5,500 were scheduled in 2025. That doesn't mean they all ended in an eviction. Some judgments get satisfied based on our notices. Some people, they go, they pay the judgment, the eviction gets stopped. Some people move out and turn over the keys. We just had one today where we got an email that said, you can cancel this one. They gave the keys, we're good. So there's, in that schedule number is things that are postponed by the attorney. Sometimes we get an email that says, hey, they gave us most of the money. We really don't want to put them out. Can we give them another shot? Put it on hold. If they don't settle up, we'll let you know.
But you said 5,500 real lockouts. That makes much more sense. That's what everyone was, I think, very upset about, to think that 18,000 people were getting locked out. It's about 5,500. That makes much more sense. Thank you.
But don't forget, it's the 18,000 of the work we still have to do. It ain't like we sitting there.
Councilmember, thank you. Councilmember Gauthier?
Okay. Thank you so much for clearing that up. We as a council are working way too hard on eviction diversion, investing in that, and right to counsel and emergency rental assistance to have anywhere that number, near that number of evictions, so thank you. My question is actually for FJD. A few months ago, under the leadership of Councilmember Phillips and Councilmember Landau, we had a hearing on the use of GPS in the juvenile justice system. And I'm wondering what has changed since then about policy or practice related to the use of GPS, particularly to ensure GPS is only being used as an alternative to incarceration.
Thank you for that question, Councilperson. GPS is being used by family court. Our numbers have dropped on the amount of GPS, and one of the changes we're trying to make sure that GPS is used on the more violent cases than the misdemeanor cases. Right now in calendar year 2025, or 2024 is our last stats that I have, 85% of the GPS use was on felony cases, only 15% was on misdemeanor cases. The year before that, the numbers are very similar, 80% on felony and 20% on misdemeanor cases. We are trying to use GPS sparingly and trying to make sure that it's not interrupting the daily activities of those that have to wear them. In the calendar year of 2025, there were 749 motions filed for GPS review. 39% of them remained in the community on GPS. 27% were held for further action by the court, and then 29% failed to appear, and then there were some miscellaneous numbers. So GPS has its place. I think that it's being used correctly. It's very expensive to use, but we are trying to use it to keep juveniles in Philadelphia, not in placement, and also under supervision. But as I said, I think the family court will tell you that the emphasis is to use them where they must be used, and that's mostly on our felony, and it's just a different population that they're dealing with now.
Thank you. At the hearing, we heard a lot about sort of hardships that were placed on people in terms of them being able to move forward with their lives under GPS monitoring. We heard of people going back into lockup because of technical violations. I'm looking to understand if the items that you discussed right now are those the ways that you've always practiced. Did you all take anything specific from the hearing? And since the hearing, have you made any changes in policy or practice based on what we heard is happening in the community?
I know that there's ongoing discussions under Administrative Judge Ochevsky. They are looking at different ways that they can take that information and try to make the system better. As of right now, I can't tell you that I know of any changes as the court administrator, but I can definitely talk to the administrative judge and get you a more comprehensive answer.
Thank you. This is really important to council, so I would love to be able to follow up with you all to understand what changes you're willing to put in place. Thanks so much.
Okay.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Council Member Young, and then Phillips.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple questions for the sheriff. I want to thank you all for being here. Madam Sheriff, can you talk about you mentioned that there is a shortage in officers, but can you talk about what your promotion policies are from within? So, and how you're looking to, I guess, how does your promotion policies affect your recruitment?
I'm trying to understand, promotional or advertising?
No, just how do you promote from within? What are your policies? What do you do to determine who and how your officers get promoted, and then how does that affect your recruitment?
To the next rank?
Yeah.
Okay. They take a test, and then they get listed on the test, and they get listed as to what their rank is. The city gives us we got about 10 spaces. They may give us a list of 20. Then they are interviewed. They are interviewed by the command, and they are graded on that. And those that are the highest are the ones that get promoted. The others get put back on the list until the list ends.
Okay, thank you. What, in your testimony, you talk about the Sheriff Academy. Can you talk to us about what is your implementation path for this academy? I know you and I have talked privately about it, but just talk to us as a council to talk to us about, what some of the operational challenges that you're facing with having to send, your recruits halfway across the state, and just talk to us about what the need is for this.
I'll let my chief of staff do that, because I can talk about that all day. That's like the biggest thing in my book. We need people.
Thank you. And if you could also mention and talk about how you plan to recruit and train deputies, not just after, after you get this academy, how you're going to recruit to keep them here.
Absolutely. Jameson Rogers, Chief of Staff to Sheriff Michelle Bilal in Philadelphia Sheriff's Office. Regarding your question, Councilmember, the sheriff has had this vision for a very long time and has made immense hurdles in getting us close to the finish line as far as identifying a location, getting collar counties, as she mentioned earlier, other elected sheriffs that want to send their recruits here because of the 19 weeks that you have to spend in State College. We have a lot of people that really want to be a deputy sheriff. However, when they find out that they have to spend 19 weeks, Monday through Friday, at State College for a 3.5-hour drive each way, we lose a lot of good candidates. So having this academy here, and I believe Councilman O'Rourke, you asked us last year, what buy-in did we have last year? We didn't. Now we do have buy-in from border collar counties now. We've had the conversations with public property. Ms. Harris, I worked with when she was chief deputy mayor here, putting together a 5-year plan on how it would increase recruitment and lower overtime over those 5 years. Unfortunately, those conversations have stopped, but we yearn for the opportunity to re-engage with those conversations again. And it'll be an economic opportunity for the city of Philadelphia, and also enhancing the numbers that we have within the office. Hope that answers your question.
But we also did something else. We knew that because of the court order, we needed to hire and branch out. So while we're waiting for State College, now mind you, State College serves 61 counties. So we may get 4 slots. So we hire 30 people because we bring them into our office and start training them prior to them going to State College. So now you do the math. If they're 61 counties, we get 4 slots. We got 20 people. You know how long it'll take for all 20 of them to get trained up at State College? 5 years. Thank you. You do the math quickly. So we had it decided that we will look at another avenue, which we are doing at Monco. We send some of our recruits to Monco to get trained. And then they come back and they do the 2-week waiver with 1 week up at State College and 1 week here. So that kind of like eliminate that. But they have a threshold that we can't send every, so we got 20. We can't send 20 over there either. So it's like some that may be able to go to State College and some go to Monco. That's how we were able to hire about, 100 and something?
126.
After this court order, because we had to think out of the box on how to get people to come and be deputy sheriffs in this city. So going to State College, for families that are here in this city, that are involved in this city, that's a no-no for them. Once they go through orientation and find that out, they don't show up anymore.
Thank you. I have one more question for the courts, if you don't mind, Madam Chair. I recently learned that the Family Court Help Center just lost a federal grant. Can you talk to us about how, how important it is for us to, I guess, take a look at this information? I think that this is information that was given to us by, I guess, some of the, I think, members of the Bar Association. And this Family Court Help Center, it seems like it's staffed by some of those, like, basically volunteers, essentially. Can you talk to us and talk to us about the impact of the loss of, like, any federal grants on the court system?
I believe that this is the question we started our testimony with, that I didn't think that we have lost that grant money. I think that the family court is still working with how they're going to fill that gap, and I need to speak to Administrative Judge Ochevsky. I'll be able to get you more definite information on that and have it distributed to council.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilmember Phillips.
Thank you so much, Chairwoman. So my only line of questions I have for today is for the First Judicial District. Currently, if I'm correct, you handle Act 135 conservatorship, correct? Okay. Have you seen an increase in Act 135 conservatorship filings over the past 3 to 5 years? If so, what is driving that increase?
Yeah, I don't know if there's been an increase, I'm sorry, but I could find out and get the information to you.
Okay. How many properties have been placed into conservatorship annually, and how many result in transfer of control or ownership? Can you have to get back to me on that as well?
I'm sorry, I would have to get back to you, but thank you for the question. It's an important point.
Okay. And are you doing anything in terms of providing safeguards in place to ensure property owners are fully understand their rights before conservatorship is granted? Is that something your office does?
Well, there's a checklist of things that have to be asked, questions, inquiries that have to be made before the Act 135 is granted. So the presiding judge would go through that whole list. I actually presided over that when I was in that program, and there are actually there's regulations and rules, and I would spend a lot of time exhaustively going through that list to make sure.
Right. Well, I say that because I'm greatly concerned about properties being taken from residents in the city of Philadelphia through conservatorship. Currently, we have a property, and I would love to continue this conversation with you, in which a church wanted a property next door to them. And they did everything in their power, and they're not even a predominantly African-American community. The church is predominantly white. And they did everything in their power to get that property from an individual. Unfortunately, the individual kept denying them. And then they found some ways to go through L&I, right, to get these violations on them. After the violations, they made some sort of blanket statement that he wasn't present at the house, despite the fact that several neighbors have pointed out that he does live at that house. And so, whatever reason, we're now in a position right now that a man who's been living somewhere for 37 years is in a position to potentially lose his house due to conservatorship. So I do think it's really important, right? And we're going to be working on this because it's bothersome to me. So I just want it's going to be very, very important that I think this court, we're trying to preserve houses in Philadelphia, does something to help protect those people.
Councilman Chair recognizes Councilman Jones for point of information.
Thank you. President Judge, that issue that Member Phillips is talking about is pervasive.
Is what?
Pervasive. And what irks me, and I appreciate you raising it, what irks me is they won't do that in the heart of distressed neighborhoods. They won't say, yeah, we want to, take over these properties because we see blight in depressed neighborhoods. They wait till they get to Mount Airy.
Germantown.
They get to Germantown. They get to our districts, Winfield, the like, and then they say, oh, that property has a broken window. And we will take it under our advisement, building up enough of the fines, fees, levies, and improvements, keeping a thick folder. Before you know it, the people that may have been under distress, may have been unable to keep up with the payments, lose the house. And it doesn't just happen every now and then. It is a systematic, there are law firms that dedicate themselves to this process. So the issue that my colleague is raising is pervasive.
Thank you, and thank you so much, Member Jones.
Yeah.
And I just want to say, it is also utterly important to you as we provide support funding to this office, that you all work together in conjunction with City Council in the city of Philadelphia to prevent this from happening. So you can say you're doing your part, and maybe you're counseling and coaching your judges on how to look for these particular schemes, because it's not right? And I think some of them are also in cahoots in some capacity that needs to be looked at seriously. So we will be in conversation. I'm not going to let this one go because it's wrong. All right? Thank you.
Councilman, thank you very much. Point of information from Councilmember Young.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to point out for my colleagues that this is state legislation that allows this.
Yes.
So we need to talk to our partners in Harrisburg that allow, the law itself allows attorneys and the petitioners automatic payments. So the petitioner get 20% from the top, and lawyers automatically get their fee because the law says they do, right? So it's not, the court has little discretion in some of the things that happen with Act 135. So I think we really need to focus our energy on actually changing the legislation from Harrisburg. But yes, the courts have discretion on determining if the property is considered abandoned or blighted, but the legislation is so, it's so vague that, you can, anyone's house can fit under the definition. So it's very hard to kind of control this type of behavior when the law allows those, those types of predators, I'm going to call them that because that's what they are, to reap these benefits from this Act 135 law. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you so much.
And just going back to Councilmember Phillips's point, one of the things that I learned about Act 135 is that when someone files against you, you are automatically the defendant in the case. So you have to go in to defend your right to keep your own real estate. And again, as we talk about real estate being generational wealth, for most of us in our communities, the only generational wealth that we really have access to. It's very, very frightening that this is happening. But back to Councilmember Young's point, that's something that we really need to coalesce and work with our state partners on legislatively to get some changes there. So thank you very much. Done? Okay. Chair recognizes Councilmember Landau.
Thank you. First, thank you all for being here. Appreciate you so much. I think I scare Councilmember Jones away every once in a while. I got you. I was just kidding. My first questions are for the court. In case you don't know, I am the chair of the tech committee, and I always try to ask a whole bunch of tech questions, but one thing in particular is that I've heard, I'm curious about who oversees the technology systems, the databases and the dockets in both the Court of Common Pleas and Municipal Court. Do all the courts have the same systems? And would you detail what it would cost to improve these systems? I've heard stories as much as people saying that even switching out a PDF would cost $20,000. I'm not sure if someone was being dissuaded from changing that PDF, but I would be curious about that. And also, how do you work with the city's OIT on both hardware and software improvements for our courts?
Thank you for the question, Councilperson. The FJD has its own IT department. It's fully staffed. We look after all of our own hardware. We have created a lot of software. We do have outside software that we use. Family Court uses a PACES system, for example. Court of Common Pleas and Municipal Court and Criminal use a system called CPCMS. That's a state-run system. But everything has to come through our FJD IT department. We work hand in hand with the city's OIT. We have weekly, if not more, meetings with them. We can't do anything without city OIT because everything has to go through the city network. They have their firewalls. We need permission to get through our firewalls. So to answer your question, we look after our own hardware. We have a cycle to replace our PCs, to upgrade to the latest programs. I think that we're up to Windows. I'm not sure which Windows it is. What is it? 10. Yeah, we're up to Windows 11 now.
Whoa.
I know. We're coming right out of the 19th century and moving straight ahead. So we do have to do all this within the confines of our budget, our class 200 and 300 monies. The FJD IT department does have its own budget, and it's just to basically maintain what we can do. But everything in FJD, every program, and I think you mentioned that, are we all using the same hardware or software?
Who does the maintenance if you needed to change a form, update, something more having to do with filing, not the website?
Right. Unless it's something that I myself could go in and change a form for something for, policies for the FJD. If I have access to that, right access to that, administrative rights, then I could do it. But almost everything, from things posted on our intranet to our internet, to the forms that are used within the FJD, all that has to be done and is approved by the FJD IT, which has a staff of, I think, about 20 or so people.
Okay. I'd love to follow you up. I'm going to get the details of this and follow up with you on this particular instance. And also, I wanted to follow up on having to do with Family Court Help Center too. So last year I was able to secure money in the budget for the debt court navigators. Can you give an update on where we stand with the debt court navigator and anticipated outcomes? And then I'm also looking at Family Court because Philadelphia Legal Assistance and Women Against Abuse have provided 2 help desks for almost a decade, and they're about to lose all of their funding. So can you detail their operation and impact, and what would it take to not only maintain but increase access to this critical legal assistance?
Again, I'm sure I have to fall back on, I'll have to get back to you with Administrative Judge Ochevsky. I don't want to speak for him, but I know that they're aware of this and they are making plans. But I want to make sure I have my details, so I'll circle back with you and get that information.
You need to bring him next time.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. I have a couple of questions for the sheriff as well. I'm staying on my tech theme here. Can you detail how the Sheriff's Office works with the city's Department of OIT for tech support, both hardware and software? And you detail a partnership with Tyler Technologies to help improve financial transparency. What's the Sheriff's Office paying for these services? When can we expect results? And what specifically are they going to produce? I also have a LiveScan Plus question.
Okay. Eric Chambers and
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Eric Chambers. I am the IT Director for the Philadelphia Sheriff's Office. And with respect to your question, Madam Councilwoman, we have a collaboration under the Sheriff's leadership. We are rebuilding a collaboration with OIT. And they do some of our services, and then we have an IT staff in-house that does the majority of other services. So with respect to just general daily computer issues or whatever, we have an IT staff, right? But when we need to do anything within the network, domain or whatever, we coordinate with OIT, and we do that through their ticketing system. We are, again, as I stated, rebuilding relationships so we can reach out directly to those individuals in some of the different units under OIT for help in various areas. For instance, we just got our first server environment. So that will give us the ability to bring together all the software that we have currently running under the Sheriff's Office into one location. And with that, we collaborated with OIT through their gates process to get to a point where now we have that environment, we can house that software. In addition to that, we are working with OIT to bring in accounting software. When I came on board, under the Sheriff's leadership, again, we have transitioned the Sheriff's Office from the Stone Age, really, in my opinion, because I've been in IT a long time. We've transitioned from the Stone Age to the 20th century. And we're in the 21st century, right, but we're getting there, as our people over in FJZ stated, right? We're getting there. We're Windows 11 compliant now, and we have a lot of equipment that is working within the office now to assist our users to be able to do the things they need to do on a daily basis.
Thank you so much for that. When I first started to work for the city of Philadelphia, long before the sheriff was at the helm, they were still doing things by pencil and paper, so.
Yes,
I think we done had too many press conferences on what it was when I walked in there. So I'm not even gonna belittle that computer that had a big old back to it when my grandbaby had a flat screen, and that's 2020. Patrick?
Yes, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Patrick Lee, and I'm the Chief Financial Officer for the Sheriff's Office. So what's interesting about what we've been able to do in conjunction with our IT team is that we tie everything to a city contract. So that is the basis of where we go. All the pricing is set by those contracts. For example, IT augmentation of staff, we get that through OIT. In addition, all of the Dell and software, unless it's other than Microsoft software, we use a city contract to purchase, and that helps us with managing the costs that go into IT down to the hardware, software, and any other items that we need through, and to augment our augmentation process that we have implemented over the last 4 years, going on 5 years since I've been there. The efficiencies have been readily apparent. So every time we add technology, we improve either a process, procedure, or a unit gets to do something a little more efficient.
That's great. I was curious about the Tyler Technologies and LiveScan Plus systems too. Well, let's go to LiveScan Plus because I think this one's particularly important. You said it's going to provide mobile biometric ID capabilities such as fingerprinting. And how do we ensure data in the system and with any LiveScan subcontractors will be secure? What's the process if federal law enforcement such as ICE would ask the city, LiveScan or any of its data storage partners for the fingerprinting information?
Any one of y'all?
Well, I don't work with LiveScan.
Talking about our fingerprinting that we have outside. That's our warrant unit. Basically, all our data is kept with us. That data does not go in a cloud to the city. It's kept within the server that we maintain in the sheriff's office. And we don't give that information out.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Wait. That's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. Chair recognizes Council Member Ahmad.
Thank you,
And
Chair.
before I do that, I want to recognize Council Member Mark Squilla is present. Member Ahmad.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you all. I first have a quick question for the First Judicial District. Good afternoon, Madam Judge. I wanted to know, what training do judges get around human trafficking and child welfare issues? Is there a specific training module as new judges come on around these issues? And then I have a second part
Yes,
question.
there is training. Thank you for that question. The AOPC, Administrative Office of Pennsylvania Courts, runs, we call it affectionately, Baby Judge School. Every time we get a lot of any new judges that come in, and they cover a lot of that substantive information.
And the follow-up is, give us an overview of how the branches within First Judicial work with DHS, with Department of Human Services, with respect to child welfare, family court cases, and where do you see gaps, either in communication or cooperation, and particularly, do you have any interaction with the COA case managers and the DHS case managers? The feedback we get, particularly from constituents, is that there seems to be a disconnect, and a lot of times the information doesn't seem to reach the judge sitting reviewing these cases, and they feel a lot gets lost. So this is from the outside looking in, and of course not everybody's allowed in the court, so this is also some hearsay involved. So I just wanted to clarify what engagement is there to have a really nuanced, solid sort of briefing that the judges get in order to pass judgment.
Well, the judges have all of those workers right there in the courtroom, and they can testify. The workers can testify. The judges can follow up. They can ask for additional resources to be ordered for them. And they periodically reschedule those matters, especially in dependency court. So if there's a change of circumstances, that can be made known. A lot of times, because those cases are so intimate and emotional, you may have people who are displeased with the result, and that can end up in a complaint. But the judges work really hard to try to get it right. Our family court judges are hardworking, and they really do want to make the right decision. I mean, who doesn't want to make the right decision? Of course they do.
Well, thank you, because this is traumatizing for them as well. But it is many more times traumatizing for those who've gone through the system to stand in front of them. So I just want to make sure I can tell our constituents that there's a grounding in understanding all of this. So thank you. I know I have very little time. I want to pivot to our sheriff. Thank you. My question is, you talk about including workplace stabilization and wellness as a FY27 priority. Can you give us a quick example of what this initiative could look like? And I will tell you why I'm asking. I just passed a bill on workplace accommodation, and I wanted to see how those trickle down to you, meaning how do you see those in your work, and how does that come into the wellness conversation, including those who come to court and are traumatized by whatever decision is made. And I've seen this happen in family court, where one side will not, maybe have their child removed, and they have a meltdown, and then it becomes, there's violence and all of that. So I was looking to see how wellness is integrated in those spaces as well.
Thank you. When we say in our action, workplace stabilization and wellness, is dealing with the amount of time that our deputies are working overtime.
I see.
And because of the amount of hours that they're working overtime to make sure everything that we have to do gets done, that right there becomes an issue. Because now you're looking at burnout, looking at those that are getting stressed because of the amount of hours that they're doing right now. And so when we put that in there, hiring more people reduces the amount of overtime, stops the burnout, and therefore deals with their mental health and their wellness. That's when we talked about stabilization of the office.
And so are you also looking at stabilization or wellness in the spaces that you work? I know you're talking about your workers, that's clarified that. Because you're the frontline sort of workers in some of these traumatic spaces, I just wondered, what do you need either from your office or the judicial system to really stabilize those spaces as well for the clients and the constituents, so it doesn't escalate into problems?
That sounds like the chief question. What are you doing over there?
Good afternoon again, Chief Deputy Sean Thornton, Chief of Court Operations. Basically, what we do is we maintain professionalism throughout the day. If we see something happen, we're more proactive with it. If there's some issues with families, again, you come into the courthouse, right? Yeah. There may be some issues with trials. You have opposing families or things of that nature. So things are in place where we try to keep the peace. No, we do keep the peace. And if necessary, we separate families and things of that nature. But again, it all goes into professionalism, being there, being aware, being alert, and that's what we preach to our staff.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. I just had a brief question first. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I want to thank Member Cindy Bass, who's part of my leadership team, for holding me down. I know as we wrap up, I just had a brief few questions and also comments. Always good to see you, Sheriff Rochelle Bilal. Thank you for your hard work and your dedication and things that you're doing to move the city of Philadelphia forward. And Nina Wright-Padilla, thank you and the work that you're doing with the 1st Judicial District. On the 1st Judicial District, we have a follow-up conversation as well. Just want to know the progress we have made regarding the CURE report. The CURE report was a report that focused on racial equity and nepotism at the 1st Judicial District, and it was a report that I worked on as a council member. I just want to get an idea of where we're at in terms of how we're addressing the racial climate, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and all of those things to make sure that it's a healthy environment for individuals to thrive. Just want to know if any progress has been made since then.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Thank you for that question. I have been concerned about that CURE report from the time you brought it to my attention some time ago. Thank you for that. What I've done during my time as President Judge is I've convened a committee for the Board of Judges Committee for the CURE report. And the purpose of the committee is to go through all of the recommendations on that report and try to see how we can effectuate it, to effectuate change. I think it's really important to be aware of that CURE report and all those recommendations and protocols that were mentioned. And I plan to continue that work to make a change while I have this time. So thank you, I appreciate it, and we will do that. We will follow up too if you're interested.
Yep. Well, thank you. And yeah, we can just do a follow-up and just say, here's the recommendations that were proposed. Here's the progress we have been making as relates to the recommendations, just a status update. And always good to see Richard McSwirly as well. Thank you for your hard work. Your dedication always been on the case because you were around at that time we were working on this particular issue.
I was Council President, and we have made significant changes. Our population has changed. Our numbers are changing. The upper level management, old people like me don't get out as much, but our demographics are changing. They've changed since last time we spoke. We've instituted new hiring policies. We have hiring panels. We have promotional exams that have been changed. We've gotten rid of a lot of testing. We don't do that anymore. We have changed a lot of our policies, our personal appearance policies, to make them more neutral. And in fact, myself, my DEI chair, who's back there, Cradell,
Say that again, one more time. I like how you said that. Say it again.
Our DEI chief, Credell, is back there. He's been working with a lot of training in the FJD, doing a lot of brown bag lunching, doing a lot of different trainings and making the staff aware of different cultural differences. And we've undertook, it took us about 2 years, we went through every personnel policy in the FJD with that with that different lens, and updated everything to try to make it more inclusive, try to make it more gender neutral, try to make sure that it was up to date from the 1980 something that it was originally written. So we have been making progress ever since that, and my staff and I, and along with the judge, we're going to continue to do so.
Good. See Gary, but Mr. Jones, stand up, sir. And he's part of your team over there doing some good work, and so want to continue to encourage you, young man, to keep up the good work while you're over there in the 1st Judicial District. That's all I have. Chair recognizes Councilman Nicholas O'Rourke.
For the good of the order, I'll pass on my questions, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President. Thank you very kindly.
That's it? Okay. Thank you very much. Listen, we want to thank the two of you for being here. Thank you for your hard work and your dedication to our sheriff's office and the people that work for the sheriff's office, and particularly those who put those uniforms on. It's not guaranteed that you will come home, especially in this climate in America on any given day. So just thank you for the work that you're doing from a law enforcement perspective and just protecting those who need protection. So with that being said, thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
With that being said, is there any other questions from members of this committee as we wrap up for today? Hearing none, the chair calls on Councilwoman Cindy Baz for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. President. So moved.
It has been moved and properly seconded that the public hearing and meeting on the bills and resolutions before the committee today stand in recess until Yes.
We stay in a recess until tomorrow at 2.
I'm reading it now. It has been moved and properly seconded that the public hearing and meeting on the bills and resolutions before the committee today stand in recess until Wednesday, April the 29th at 10 a.m. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Anyone opposed? The ayes have it and the motion carries. This committee will stand in recess until Wednesday, April the 29th at 10 a.m., at which time we will reconvene in room 400. Thank you very much.